let's move on to a CNBC TV18 exclusive. Let's cut across to the UK-India Business Convention, where CNBC TV18 Shereen Bhan is in conversation with the UK Cabinet Minister Sajid Javid, Ivan Menzies, who is the CEO of Diageo, and Patricia Hope-Hewitt, the chairperson of UK-India Business Council.
So in terms of increasing trade between our countries, mutual investment between our countries, there's a lot more that we can do. And we have some initiatives planned. I don't want to reveal them all now, but we have some mutual ideas. And I think it will certainly give a boost. The second thing is regarding things like skills. That's been hugely important for both of our countries. We have a skill shortage in Britain, and in particular we need more engineers. Companies will tell you we need more computer specialists, and that is something that we invest in. But I know in India, talking already today, this morning, to some of the people that are here, that India also wants to invest in skills, and particularly the skills that are required for future growth. And I think there's good mutual cooperation between educational institutions and between the governments in boosting that as well. And then lastly, outside the non-economic space, I think we have a lot of mutual interest, especially in terms of global security around the world. There's a number of issues. There's a huge agreement between our both countries on those issues, but I think it's an opportunity to discuss those too.
About how businesses will find their way around each market, whether it's UK investing into India or Indian companies looking at investing into the UK. But if the government were to play enabler and were to play the role of the facilitator, what are UK businesses telling you at this point in time? And I'm talking about strategic investors, I'm talking about foreign direct investment, because at the end of the day, capital is a coward, and they will only go in if they feel welcome and if there is a degree of certainty as far as policy, whether it's tax or otherwise, is concerned. This has been a sticky issue when it comes to UK companies specifically. We've got a couple of companies that have now moved arbitration proceedings against the Indian government. Is this going to be at all addressed? Are you going to fight the battle on behalf of UK business?
Well, the way maybe I can start answering that question is, before I came into politics in 2010, I was in international business. I worked for international banks, and I worked in the US and UK and in Asia, and I used to spend actually a lot of time doing business in India as well. But my specialization was emerging markets, big growing markets like India. And I think for all these markets, the ones that have very clear rules and regulations, whether it's tax or whether it's getting approvals to start a business and issues like that, are the ones that do best. So international companies, they need clarity. They want to reduce uncertainty, and the less uncertainty there is in a potential market, the more likely they are to invest. And that's no different if they're looking at India or any other country. Now, India has come a huge, it's come a long way over a number of years, and that's been reflected in its growth rate. It's been reflected in the investment from Britain and elsewhere. But I'm absolutely sure that there is more capital sitting there offshore, not just in Britain but around the world, that would be happy to come to India, but if only some of the rules and regulations were maybe sometimes a bit clearer. And that is something your own government, the Indian government, recognizes. And I think when the Prime Minister of India, when he says that he wants to move up that ranking from the World Bank in terms of the ease of doing business, that's exactly what he's rightly identified, and he's on the case.
So you will or you will not address this issue when the Prime Minister visits?
We will. We're already working with the Indian government on this issue, and we'll be excited to know about how more, what more we can do to help.
Okay. Talking about areas of opportunity, and you addressed the need in the UK for skilled talent. What can we expect in terms of ease of talent movement on behalf of the UK government to facilitate the movement of talent from India into the UK?
Well, already the system we have set up, I think it works well in that if you have a British company that needs someone from anywhere around the world, of course, including India, that needs an expert in any particular field, as long as they meet certain requirements, certainly on earnings and some other requirements, they can bring that talent in and it can help their company grow. And I think that's a process that's followed by most countries around the world. It works well. We are very lucky to have so many Indians that are talented, whether it's engineering and science and computing, particularly these areas, come and work for British companies or perhaps even the Indian companies that are operating in Britain. And that works well. The other thing we do, and I think is just as important, is to make sure that there's absolutely no cap at all, no restriction on the number of Indians that can come and study in Britain, because it goes back to that point about India also needs skills for the future. I mentioned in my speech, for example, British universities, the top 6, top 4, but we have many world-class universities, fantastic colleges, other training facilities, and any Indian student, as long as they have the means and the ability, they can come to Britain. There's no cap, there's no restriction, and we welcome it.
Okay. Before I get the audience in, if I could ask you a quick question on how bilateral relationships are now going to be shaped in an era where more and more multilateral agreements are being inked. We've got the India-EU FTA derailed at this point in time. We don't know how quickly they're going to be able to get back on track. But what will this mean now as far as bilateral equations go?
Well, I think that certainly when it comes to trade and investment, we are in an era where the agreements are essentially much more likely to be multilateral. Because, as people will know, for the UK, in terms of trade agreements, investment agreements, we operate through the EU. We work together with our EU partners, and I think there's a lot of common sense in that approach. But it does sometimes slow it down. So as you just referred to the EU-India FTA, which I think will be fantastic for both the EU and certainly for India as well. It is a slow bureaucratic process because there are so many countries involved on the European side. But once those deals are done, as we've seen with others, it can certainly lead to a big growth in trade. The other big area is obviously the WTO, where it is easily the largest multilateral trade organization. There's been a success on a number of issues, which India has been involved in as well, certainly digital products, which will help all countries. And I think that's an example where actually you do want a multilateral.
All right, that was Shereen Bhan speaking to the UK Cabinet Minister, Mr. Sajid Javid, in the UK-India Business Convention. But we'll slip into a short break. Coming up on the other side, we'll get talking more markets. Stay tuned.
CNBC TV 18, celebrating 15 years of leadership.